Michael Patrick Shields is on the air.
Good morning, world.
Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Tuesday to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields on a Grand Traverse Tuesday, sponsored by the Traverse City Convention and Visitors Bureau. Let's get the anchorman, Gary Austin, in here to give you the morning report, brought to you by AARP. It's a membership organization leading positive social change and delivering value to people aged 50 and over through information, advocacy, and service. Gary Austin, take it away. Good morning.
Good morning. This is a serious concern only getting worse. Suicide is the third leading cause of death for those between the ages of 10 and 24.
But what do we do about suicide prevention? So we're filling that void, and we're saying, let's talk about mental illnesses, let's talk about suicide prevention.
With the Minds organization, that's Heather Irish. She started this in Michigan 13 years ago to educate kids about mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, and suicide. She says mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. She says it's got to be addressed, talked about, and treated. On Thursday, Governor Snyder will be out with his new budget. The spending plan is likely to include a lot of cuts. State Senator Dave Hildebrand.
I expect the governor to propose some major changes to the state budget. You'll see reductions in most areas of government.
The state is facing a $1.8 billion shortfall for the fiscal year that starts October 1st. This is State Rep Ken Yonker.
We're going to have some challenges as to making tough decisions that are going to affect people's lives, that people that we care about.
Kentwood Mayor Richard Root said local governments will be keeping close watch.
Every element of our state's going to be affected. We just have to sit down and listen to what he says and see what it affects.
Those in the auto industry are keeping close tabs on what's going on in Chicago. The auto show is open there to the public now, and studies show a good turnout always translates into more cars and trucks being sold not long after. And some analysts say with a lot of pent-up demand and the economy starting to recover at least a little, that could end up putting more in the buying mood. Marketing manager for the Buick Regal, Chris Ayant, says they are broadening their portfolio with fuel-saving technology.
The LaCrosse is going to have a standard 2.4-liter Ecotec with e-assist technology, which is basically an advanced hybrid system that allows for greater fuel economy, in fact 25% better. For the Regal, we're going to be offering that as optional for 2012. That's what we announced here in Chicago, specifically for those customers that are really focused on fuel efficiency but also want the best in luxury and value, and that's what Buick's offering. They've got a lot to look at here at the Buick display.
And here, U.S. Vice President for Chevrolet Marketing, Rick Scheit, on the new Camaro ZL1.
It's a really exciting performance car for Chevrolet. It really continues the launch of the Camaro lineup. We started with the coupe. We moved to the convertible here.
And he says those behind the wheel can pick if they want to go in sport mode or touring mode.
There's all kind of aero management things with the diffusers and spoilers, and what it really does is gives you a great looking car, and we're really proud of it.
The auto show in Chicago is on now through Sunday. During these winter months, don't forget about your pets. If you're cold, they are too. With PETA, Ashley Gonzalez has these reminders.
You know, cold weather is extra hard on outside dogs who often go without adequate food, water, shelter, or medical care. Puppies and kittens, elderly animals, small animals, and dogs with short hair, including pointers, beagles, pit bulls, and Rottweilers, are especially susceptible to the cold and should be kept inside.
And she says when the temperature gets below freezing, all animals should be brought indoors.
They can suffer from exposure and frostbite just like people can. Dogs are required by law to have adequate shelter, so if you ever see a dog who has inadequate shelter or none at all, please report it to authorities. You could save a life.
And for more information, check out this website, PETA.org. That's PETA.org. In the newsroom, I'm Gary Austin. Coming up next, more with Michael Patrick Shields in the morning.
Well, Gary, do you believe you're going to be better off next year than you were this year? Michiganders are optimistic about the next year financially, despite the 43% who say their personal finances are worse than a year ago. This is a fall survey. So it was taken last fall by Michigan State University. 57% of 1,000 adults believe they'll be better off a year from now. That's the largest number since 2004, that optimistic look from the public. And that could benefit Governor Snyder. Charles Ballard, the MSU economics professor who will be with us later this week, says that if he were Governor Snyder, he'd be pretty happy with that number. Now, how will Governor Snyder be viewed? Well, the budget comes out this week in the state of Michigan. He is going to make the unusual move of giving much of his budget presentation himself. and the budget director is going to play a supporting role, according to the governor's spokeswoman. Snyder's going to give the budget overview, talk about the tax changes he wants to make, and Budget Director John Nixon will speak on the specifics. This is also Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley is going to discuss tax details. So it'll be very interesting. The cuts will be deep. He doesn't plan to lower Medicaid reimbursement rates, though, for health care providers. And he wants to keep those rates the same to ensure a continued care and access for patients. So the budget presentation is going to take place Thursday morning. It'll be a joint session of the House and Senate Appropriations Committees, and we're going to talk with State Representative Chuck Moss, the Republican from Birmingham, in just a few minutes because he is on that committee. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be an interesting week. The lieutenant governor said it would be akin to an atomic bomb going off over Lansing, and we'll see if that's the case. What he meant by that is that there'll be lots of pay, services, all sorts of programs perhaps cut. Michigan's love affair with President Obama is over. The new poll released also by Michigan State University shows 33% in the state rate his job performance as fair or excellent. Only a third of the people in Michigan think Obama's doing even a fair job, and it's the lowest level in the state since he took office. So President Obama also been courting, actually, the Dow Chemical chairman and chief executive, Andrew Liveris. Liveris has become a frequent guest at the White House, trying to wield influence with President Obama as a voice for Michigan and for manufacturing. Liveris serves on the President's Export Council. He's been to the White House 10 times in the past 2 years for meetings large and small. And Liveris competes aggressively to win contracts that will lead jobs to the United States and to Michigan. And the White House says they're in very regular dialogue with him. So let's make the Dow Chemical chairman and chief executive, Andrew Liveris, our Northwood University leader of the day. Northwood University celebrating 52 years of producing leaders now, and certainly their neighbor there at Dow Chemical in Midland is one of them. President Obama's budget, released yesterday, calls for spending $350 million on a long-range Great Lakes cleanup program. That proposal represents a cut from the $475 million that Obama proposed and Congress approved for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative last year. But if you're following the money, it's an increase from the $300 million that Obama sought for 2011. So it looks like a cut, if it's approved, for the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative. But, we're talking about going down from 475 to, well, they're going to be 475. It's cut from what it was before that. So, a billion here, a billion there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money. Republicans, though, are ripping President Obama's budget proposal. The Wisconsin Republican Paul Ryan, chairman of the House Budget Committee, he said that the president's numbers don't add up to fiscal sanity, that it's an unsustainable path. Thousands of opposition activists took to the streets in Iran yesterday to show their support for the uprising in Egypt. They were met by hundreds of riot police who beat protesters and fired tear gas. And when those Iranian security forces used the tear gas to clear a protest, Secretary of State Clinton says the protesters do have the right to march against the government.
They deserve to have the same rights that they saw being played out in Egypt and that are part of their own birthright.
Yeah, well, the protesters in Iran, inspired by the demonstrations that led to the removal of longtime Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, the witness remarked that the protesters were simply marching. They weren't shouting slogans. Iranians, prevented from gathering in the streets, still made their voices heard. They shouted, "God is the greatest," from the rooftops in Tehran. So could the Egyptian model of taken to the streets spill over to other parts of the Arab street? We'll see. 16 minutes after the hour right now. Now, I guess Miley Cyrus has been misbehaving, and Billy Ray Cyrus, her father, is saying that he wished Miley Cyrus had never starred in the Hannah Montana series. And he says, quote, "The damn show destroyed my family." She's been caught on video smoking a bong, and I guess there's some seductive photos of her on the internet. She danced on a stripper pole. And all that money she made as Miley, as Hannah Montana, Billy Ray Cyrus is saying that's caused all this trouble in their life. Well, I don't know what to say about that, except she got awfully rich and got awfully famous and now gets into trouble, and you're biting the hand that feeds you. And it's an age-old Hollywood story, isn't it? All that fame comes at a price. An Ottawa County man is accused of killing 2 horses after an argument with his wife. Dennis Finkler was arraigned yesterday on animal cruelty and other charges. The Ottawa County Sheriff's deputies arrested him this past weekend. He stabbed a quarter horse his wife owned and a palomino owned by a man with whom he presumed she was having an affair. He's out of jail on $3,000 bond. And the West Michigan parents accused of handcuffing their teenage son to a chair and a desk are not going to face charges. He was handcuffed for 3 weeks to the furniture as punishment for shoplifting because he threatened to run away. They're not going to face charges. It's an extreme technique, to say the least. 18 minutes after the hour, more legal news and also the sports. When we get back, it's Michael Patrick Shields. So we're hearing a lot about this uprising in the Middle East and in Egypt and people getting involved in a cause, maybe some of them back here, obviously, with the high concentration of people in the Middle East here in Michigan. And Jonathan Raven, the attorney with Fraser to Bilcock Davis and Dunlap, raised an interesting question, and I think it was spotted in one of the national media articles where this fella from Google actually played a major role in what went on in Egypt. And Jonathan Raven is with us here in our Gillespie Group storefront studio this morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
Are you when you were younger, because now you're a businessman and everything, you probably can't go chasing tilting windmills and that kind of thing. Were you sort of a rabble rouser?
Well, I was raised in the 5th Ward on the south side of Chicago, which is one of the most politically active places in the Midwest. And so I would have to tell you that I was politically aware, and I got involved in political campaigns. My first bout was as a clown when I was about 8 years old for a congressman. Many people now confuse the two.
So you dressed up like a clown and held a political sign, that kind of thing?
I did that, and I was under 10 years old. I can't remember. My mom and dad put me up to it, and the rest is history. Later on in college, during the 60s, I guess I was in the street a little bit with the rest of the students during the times of upheaval.
Aha. You know, just as an aside, a couple of years ago, I took my son Harrison, I think he was about 10 at the time, down to Detroit for Thanksgiving. And we stayed in a hotel the night before. And I told him we're going to the parade, right? So we get up in the morning, we walk across the street from the Renaissance Center to the parade route. And all of a sudden we go in the building, and it's the staging building. And before he knows it, they're putting a clown costume on him and on me. And he suddenly realizes that he's not going to the parade. He's going to be in the parade. And he looks up at me and he says, "Dad, how could you do this to me?" They're putting makeup on his face and everything else. Anyway, it's confusing the members of Congress with clowns. It's a good point. Maybe you wouldn't have a clown at your rally anymore.
No, I think that today the issues at political rallies are a little more serious, and sometimes you worry about having adequate security.
What about people who, they work for a company, maybe the company doesn't agree with their political motives or their political views, or maybe the person takes time off. In this case, in Egypt, what do you do when somebody says, "Hey, I got to leave my job for a little while, I got to go support my cause"?
It's an interesting question, and factually, that's probably not exactly what Mr. Ghonim did when he took time off of his work at Google, because he just took time off and didn't tell his employer where he was going or what he was going to do.
He's taking vacation days or whatever. He's
took time off,
do whatever he wants.
Going to Egypt, where he was born. He actually was employed. Most people haven't seen this, but he was actually employed in the Middle East. I think in Dubai, one of the countries near Egypt, and went to Egypt. And then when all things broke loose, he was actually arrested and somewhat abused in jail. And ultimately, I think when he was freed, he spoke with his employers, and they both agreed he should take a leave of absence until this thing all sorted out. Since that time, his employer has issued some very carefully worded statements of support, and ultimately, since his employer is a media company, an electronic media company, they issued a statement on Twitter saying, "We look forward to having you back." So all is well with his job, apparently, at least for now.
Now, but this is a rare situation because it's so high profile, where Google, their hands were just about tied, weren't they? I mean, they couldn't exactly fire the guy who was considered a hero in this movement, could they?
Well, if you ask the lawyer and me, of course, I would tell you that they may well be able to fire him. If you ask the business person, I would tell you that there certainly are public relations issues And when you have social media companies that encourage free communication of ideas globally, they're in a tough spot because they have business relationships with countries. Google, for example, is now selling cloud computing and probably trying to sell them to Egypt. So now you have your marketing official who presumably does business with a country of Egypt taking time off and fomenting the overthrow of its government. I would think that as an employer, I would want to stop and think about whether I want my employee doing that on-off time, which then gets to the issues. Let's say you're a Michigan employer. What could you do? And there are two important words if you're a Michigan employer or employee. Those words are at will. And the words at will in Michigan mean that an employer who has hired someone on an at-will basis can terminate the employee at any time for any reason or no reason, with cause or without cause. So you have to be a little careful of what you do, but there's nothing to protect an employee who does something that might reflect poorly on an employer.
Let's just say for the fun of it that so one of your employees took a few days off, and you were watching CNN, and they had a live shot from Dearborn, Michigan to get reaction to what's going on in Iran. And there was your employee at a flag burning, a U.S. flag burning. You could say, okay, I don't want that kind of guy around my company, and that's it, game over?
Assuming that the employee...
Free speech, right?
Free speech. However, the constitutional protections that apply to public activity don't necessarily reach into a private workplace. And again, if the employee was hired at will, in other words, not with a written contract that said it's for a specific term, or that you could only be fired for a cause, for example, which you can put into employment contracts. In this case, if the employer decided it didn't want that person working for the company any longer, and the employee were at will, then the employer doesn't even need to give a reason to say it's time to part company.
Even though what they were doing was perfectly legal.
Even though what the employee was doing was perfectly legal, an employer has absolute rights with at-will employees to terminate them at any time, unless it's for a reason that is protected by a statute. And there are certain statutory protections for employees. We've talked about them before, and we've all read about them. They may be discrimination, unfair discrimination on the basis of race, national origin, things of that nature, illegal activity, things.
Doesn't cover politics, though.
Doesn't really cover politics, which then gets you into all kinds of questions. But that's one of the things that makes this a free country, is that we all do have freedom of speech. And in Lansing, in particular, we're a political town. And a lot of people do political things off their own time. Some actually do them on their own time. And so there's a kind of a blend of issues here. And certain employers have a lot of things at stake with the political world.
Is there no such thing as wrongful dismissal, then, in an at-will situation?
There is such a thing as wrongful dismissal in an at-will situation. As I started to mention a moment ago, where there are statutes that protect the employee, if an employer decides it doesn't want to have any people of a particular racial background or ethnic heritage or religious persuasion, those things are protected. And if the employee can show, and employees can and do show at times, that employers cross lines, then the employee does have an opportunity to have a case heard. And these protections have been long built into this country, sometimes long in coming, but still here.
So if somebody wants to have time off for all the Jewish holidays, let's say, the employer has to acquiesce to that.
That is generally the way employers work. Sometimes they take personal leave time for those days. Some employers simply just allow it to happen. I think there are some limits on how much time people can take off. If someone is missing an action for a lot of other occasions and they happen to take a holiday off that may or may not be an official employer holiday, well, that employee should think about attendance. Irrespective of
We're getting into
they also
common
take
sense
off
at that
religious
stage.
holidays. Common sense does count.
What about if, I'm just brainstorming, but if you had a woman who became pregnant and had a rough pregnancy, couldn't come to work, and then when the baby was born, just didn't seem the same, which you could perfectly well understand, because, you know, it's an all-consuming thing to be a parent. And could the employer then say, you know what, you don't have the attention to detail that you used to. I don't think this is working out.
Yes, generally that can happen, but there are, of course, limits. For one thing, there are medical conditions that arise in the course of pregnancy and afterwards. And so if an employee has medical leave time or sick time or personal time available, generally the employer will allow the employee to use it. If an employee just continues to use up a lot of time and then exceeds the time, for example, with childbirth, there's family leave time. If the employee exceeds the time, it's certainly an employer's right to say, look, I need someone here to do the job. Mm-hmm. You don't have leave left. You don't have sick time left. And I simply have to have somebody to do this. That would probably be permissible because the employee wouldn't be terminated because of the medical condition. The employee would be terminated because the employee just never comes to work.
Do you have any pictures of you in those clown costumes when you were 8 years old?
I don't.
You sure?
My mother is 88 and living in Chicago, and with it, she would be happy to look, I suspect, although her vision is failing at this age. And, I think we can just let that one live in memories. But if you go to www.fraserlawfirm.com, you can find my picture in a suit like this, which we'll let the viewer decide whether.
Okay. Thanks for being with us this morning. We sure appreciate it.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
Jonathan Raven, who visible this morning on Fox 47 television, too, if you happen to be watching, but he's with Fraser, Trebilcock, Davis, and Dunlap PC. They have offices all across the state. He's headquartered here in the Lansing area. It is 33 minutes after the hour. You're listening in Grand Rapids. You're listening in Mount Pleasant. You're listening in Traverse City, in Petoskey, in St. Joe and Benton Harbor, in Kalamazoo, in Saginaw, Hastings, and all across the state of Michigan. We're glad to have you with us this morning. I have to tell you, the Pistons dropped their third straight game yesterday, lost to the Atlanta Hawks 94-79 at the Palace. They will continue their homestand. The Pacers are in tomorrow night. Tigers have opened spring training. The first official workout was yesterday for pitchers and catchers. They're going to wear 2 patches this year, one for the 75th year Detroit has trained in Lakeland, and the other one to honor the late Sparky Anderson. The Lakeland patch will be worn through the end of spring training, and the patch for Sparky is going to be on uniforms throughout the season. And Kansas is the new #1 men's basketball team in the nation. Jayhawks got the first place vote. Ohio State, which had been #1, is now #3 after losing to Wisconsin. And don't forget, the Spartans will play at Ohio State tonight. The Spartans and Wolverines, neither one finished in the top 25. The Ravens have given their head coach John Harbaugh a 3-year contract extension through the 2014 season, and the threat of a lockout is less than 3 weeks away. The NFL is claiming the Players Association is not negotiating in good faith with the collective bargaining agreement. So the NFL has filed an unfair labor practice charge against the union with the National Labor Relations Board. Remember, we're talking about football here. Tiger Woods got in some trouble in the Middle East. I'll tell you about that as soon as we get back. It's Michael Patrick Shields, and it's Tuesday. So I still got to go back to the story of the parents who handcuffed their child to the furniture in Berrien County. The prosecutors are saying that the techniques are extreme, but they didn't meet the level of criminal acts. So it's the ultimate go to your room, you're grounded, except here. Slap the cuffs on him. 3 weeks he was handcuffed to the furniture for shoplifting and for threatening to run away. The teen and his younger sister are in protective custody, but the parents are not going to face charges at all for that. What do you think about that? 888-900-9966. You ever done anything that extreme or sort of extreme? 888-900-9966. Property values in West Michigan appear to be bottoming out. Officials in Kent County communities say the recession and the high foreclosure rates are causing the dramatic drop. It's an 11% decline in Lowell, 6% in Wyoming, 5.5% in Grand Rapids. The only silver lining for homeowners is their taxes are going down along with their property values. River City Bike Week may be a reality in Grand Rapids after all. The City Commission is going to vote today whether to allow the bike rally. We thought that was history. Several commissioners are leaning now toward yes votes if the promoters agree to some changes. Those adjustments include cutting the event from a week to 3 days, routing traffic from the south of Van Andel Arena, and business leaders have rallied against the event. They don't like the idea of the noise and traffic problems it would bring downtown. But I suppose it's possible that event could still come to Grand Rapids. I mentioned Tiger Woods got in trouble in the Middle East while he was over there. In the second round of the Dubai Desert Classic, Tiger Woods on the weekend crouched over and spit on the 12th green after missing a par putt. And it was a serious, I don't want to get into the details, but let's just say it was visible on camera. And the Sky Sports commentator said, quote, "Disgusting what he's just done there. But there are some parts of him that are just arrogant and petulant. Now somebody has to come behind him and maybe putt over his spit. It doesn't get much lower than that. That's one of the ugliest things you'll ever see on a golf course." And the European Tour has fined Tiger Woods for doing that. And it's the ultimate ugly American thing to do, isn't it? I mean, it's nasty. And so Tiger Woods has issued an apology. He says he shouldn't have done that. But how many other times has he done it, maybe when it hasn't been on camera? Former Brooklyn Dodger Cliff Dapper is the only player known to be traded for a broadcaster. He died this week at the age of 91. And, of course, the trade was for Ernie Harwell. Back then, when Red Barber went on medical leave in 1948, the Dodgers and the team president, Branch Rickey, asked the owner of the minor league Atlanta Crackers for permission to sign Ernie Harwell. And the Crackers demanded compensation, so they asked for a catcher, and Rickey sent Dapper to the team to complete the deal. Harwell left the Dodgers after the 49 season, was replaced by Vin Scully, who still has that gig as far as I know. And, of course, Ernie Harwell went on to a Hall of Fame career for the Tigers, and we've always talked about you being the only broadcaster that was traded for a player, and now that player has passed away too. 43 minutes after the hour, Michael Patrick Shields. George Clooney's new movie, The Ides of March, is scheduled to shoot at the University of Michigan's Ann Arbor campus in mid-March, and they're looking for thousands of volunteer extras. George Clooney will be on campus. If you want to be an extra, be prepared to be on set for a full day, 12 to 14 hours, during the week of March 14th. That's St. Patrick's Day week, Amanda Wall, so I guess you can't go see George Clooney because you're going to be with us broadcasting live from Ireland for St. Patrick's Day, brought to you by Tullymore Resorts.
Okay, what a choice.
George Clooney or Ireland?
George Clooney or Ireland.
I don't know. It seems like a no-brainer to me. Ireland, here we come.
How about we ask George if he wants to go with us?
George Clooney's going to be busy working in Ann Arbor, I'm sorry to say. Tanya Harding is pregnant. Remember the skater? She's 40 years old now, expecting her first child. And this is, it all happened in Detroit. Remember that? 1994, Nancy Kerrigan gets clubbed in the knee in Cobo Center down there in Detroit. And it turns out that it was one of Tanya Harding's boyfriends who was a little too over-ambitious, wanted to knock her out of the skating championships. And then Tanya Harding became part of the American, the American awareness, for better or worse. We never let the birthday of a beautiful woman pass without taking note. Jane Seymour is 60 today. She won the Emmy Award. And you remember, I think the first time I saw her was in the James Bond movie Live and Let Die. But, of course, she did the movie at Grand Hotel with Christopher Reeve, Somewhere in Time. And so Jane Seymour, who's been on this program a number of times, happy birthday, darlings, to you. Most recently seen topless in Wedding Crashers, if you saw that movie. And maybe freeze-framed it. Mike Nystrom is with us on the other end of he's a regular guest, too. He's the Executive Vice President of the Michigan Infrastructure and Transportation Association. And if we're talking potholes and we're talking baseball in Lakeland, we're talking about spring. And so buckle up and put your chin strap on for some driving. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael. Thanks for having me.
You are going to get potholes into the modern age with some new technology that could help people out. How will it work?
Well, we've set up a Google map on our website, www.drivemi.org, and it's a pretty simple process. You go on, you put your name, your email address, and the city and road that the pothole is on, and then put a cross street where it's near. And then by the end of that day, we will post it on Google Maps.
So then at some stage when you're either planning your drive or you're driving along, you'll be alerted to look out for the giant Grand Canyon-size hole in the Lodge Freeway?
Yeah, you know, in years past, we've had a pothole contest where we gave away some scholarships, we called them. And this year we decided to change it up. We started it yesterday about noon, and we already have over 400 posted as of 7 o'clock last night. So.
The rocky roads of potholes are going to be abated or attempt to be abated by the Michigan Infrastructure and Transportation Association. DriveMI.org if you want to report some of these monsters, and we'll catch up with Mike Nystrom next week, see how it's going. Michael Patrick Shields. It is a Traverse City Tuesday on this program, brought to you by the Traverse City Visitors and Convention Bureau. And if you just go to traversecity.com, you can connect with all of the fun things that town has to offer. And coming up shortly, the Winter Wow Fest, February 18th to 20th. They're going to have music, food, entertainment for the entire family, a beer tent, a rail jam, snow and ice sculptures. All that takes place February 18th through 20th throughout Traverse City. Go to traversecity.com for more details on that sort of thing. I drove in this morning in the vehicle that I'm testing right now for Hyundai of Lansing. It's the 2008 Chevy Trailblazer, and I keep getting people saying, wow, that's a good-looking vehicle. It's got about 33,000 miles on it, black exterior, ebony cloth interior, factory warranty, and the whole thing. The price is only $18,795. That's way below the Blue Book, which is $22,090. So I like it a lot. I'll tell you this. If you want it, they'll come and take it away from me immediately. Just call Hyundai of Lansing. And that's in Grand Ledge. And you see the old Saturn of Grand Ledge. Now it's called Hyundai of Lansing, but they have vehicles, including Hyundai. They have all sorts of pre-owned vehicles, which this one is too, but it feels like brand new and less than Blue Book value. 2008 Chevy Trailblazer. And if you're anywhere in the state, you can go to their website and poke around and shop. They'll deliver it to you if you want, but it's sitting right here in front of our Gillespie Group storefront studio on the Avenue of Michigan if you want to take a sneak peek at it. Chuck Moss goes down the street here next to us all the time. He's the state representative, the Republican from Birmingham, and the House Appropriations Chair. And I imagine he's burning the midnight oil as we get ready for Governor Snyder to make an announcement on Thursday about his budget. Thanks for being available. I know you're very busy. Representative Moss, are you there?
Good morning. I'm driving in.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, this is unusual. The governor apparently is going to make the announcement himself. That's not typically how it works, is it?
No, but the governor is going to do more than just talk about budget. He's also got his tax plan, and he's going to unveil them both. And it's going to be a big event. I think it's going to shake Lansing up, and I look forward to hearing what the governor has to say.
Well, you chose the word shake Lansing up. It was the Lieutenant Governor Brian Calley last week who said it's going to be akin to an atomic bomb going off over Lansing. What did you make of that choice of words?
I said that a week ago. So, you know, Brian, I don't know if Brian stole my line or what, but no, I think he's right. It's going to be a big shake-up. We're going to do a lot of cutting, and the tax credits and things that have built up over the years are going to all be looked at. So it's going to be a big shaking up. And I don't know if you want to call him Duke Nukem or not, but at any rate, it's going to be what the people voted for. They said they wanted some change, and they wanted the spending and budgeting under control, and they wanted us to get our job done, and this is it. But it's not going to be business as usual.
We just talked a minute ago about George Clooney making a movie in March on the campus of the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, and they're looking for extras and all that sort of thing. When you just mentioned tax credits being looked at, is the movie business likely to get some sort of adjustment to that 43% rebate they're getting?
Credits, you know, they're the most visible of the credits that we give out. You know, we forgive more revenue than we actually take in. So that's just not going to be possible to continue. And everybody has a different tax rate. You know, you have a preference, but I don't. Credits, film credits, of course, they're very high profile. Governor says he's going to take a look at what those credits bring in compared to what we spend. I mean, we could have all the movies in the world if we wanted to pay everybody up front, which, by the way, we don't do. But it's a very generous package, and can we afford it? And it's all well and good to say, gee, we've got George Clooney here, but if that costs us, 4 or 5 jobs in a boring old electroplating business, then it doesn't make good sense.
Who will be screaming the loudest on Thursday afternoon?
Everybody. Everybody's going to be screaming. That's the whole point of it, is that it's called shared sacrifice, but it's also supposed to be the short-term gain, pain for the long-term gain, if you like rhyming slogans. So The idea is everybody's going to take a hit. Everybody, from the governor, the legislature. Of course, we already had a 10%, but we're going to cut ourselves some more. Everybody's going to get cut. We all have to do it. We've known for years this needed to be done, and we kick the can down the road. You know, if you don't go to the dentist for 8 to 10 years, then it's going to hurt when you do it. But you got to do it.
Governor Snyder has talked in this studio about how he's wanted to make people understand why it's necessary, sort of sell the message before he delivers the bad news. Has he done enough paving in that department?
He's done a lot. You don't know how much more you can do. Mm-hmm. You know, you go around. I go home most every night, and I go to local cities and towns and things, and just tell them, look, this is what's coming, and be ready for it. And mostly they get it. You know, they've had to deal with those things on their own, in their own lives. Those people have had to do that in the last 10 years. Businesses, everybody's had to do it. And they don't like it, but they do it. And they all pretty much get it that we have to do it. And if we don't do it now, when are we going to get a chance to actually get our budget under control and deal with the structural problems? We've been taking in more than we've been spending more than we take in.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning. I know we'll talk again soon. Drive safely. We'll see you here in the state capitol.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you, Michael Patrick.
Thank you very much. There it is, the medicine from State Representative Chuck Moss, the Republican from Birmingham. He's the House Appropriations Chair. We'll get reaction from State Representative Wayne Schmidt, the Republican from Traverse City, and Frank Foster, Republican from Pellston, on this Traverse City Tuesday, brought to you by the Traverse City Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's Michael Patrick Shields, all across Michigan. Good morning, Michigan. A very pleasant Tuesday to you. It's Michael Patrick Shields. Will it be a pleasant Thursday? Well, not for some people. If you listen to what State Representative Chuck Moss just told us, he's the House Appropriations Chair. And Governor Snyder is going to sort of make the unusual move of giving his budget presentation himself. The budget director is going to play a supporting role. That's going to happen on Thursday. The Lieutenant Governor, Brian Calley, will be there to talk about tax details. And I asked Representative Moss who will be screaming the loudest after this announcement, and he said everybody's going to be screaming, and we're about to find out why. Shared sacrifice sounds like it's coming our way, and we've got two state representatives, Wayne Schmidt, the state representative from Traverse City, on this Traverse City Tuesday, brought to you by the Traverse City Convention and Visitors Bureau, and his neighbor of sorts, State Representative Frank Foster, the Republican from Pellston. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. Great to be here.
With you. Will we need earplugs from the screaming that we talked about on Thursday when this budget is rolled out?
I think it'll probably be some tissues. People
yeah.
will be crying.
At least they're expecting it, though, right?
They are. We've been kicking this down the road, the can down the road, for quite some time now, and the day of reckoning is at hand.
You say the day of reckoning. The lieutenant governor says it'll be like an atomic bomb going off over Lansing. Here, I thought the governor was trying to soft pedal this thing all the way. What happened?
I think he may regret those words a little bit because, I don't know, they got a lot of traction, but
yeah.
Obviously, it's going to be some challenging times. This is sort of the calm before the storm. But most people in my district, most of our constituents, know that it has to happen, and they've been very cooperative. And local municipalities and community colleges and universities, for that matter, have come to me with cost-saving measures. If we could take off some of the regulatory concerns that they had, they could actually save some costs with retirement, with pensions, and things like that. So I want to say that we're all in this together, but Thursday could mean a whole different righting of the ship.
We sit here a couple blocks from the Capitol, and we cover politics all the time. So I worry sometimes that we tend to talk a little bit of inside baseball. But can you explain to the listeners in Traverse City and Petoskey and Pellston and Grand Rapids and Mount Pleasant and Saginaw, St. Joe, Benton Harbor, all the people that are listening this morning, what will this new budget proposal from the governor mean to them?
It'll mean to them that there will be shared sacrifice. Everything from businesses. As we move forward, we're going to, of course, honor the agreements we've made for some of the tax credits and such. But I think in the future you'll see less generous tax credits. I think for those that get some sort of assistance from the state, that it will probably be reduced. We're looking at the earned income tax credit, of course. Speaker Bolger has proposed that be eliminated. Again, that's just an example. I think we're gonna look at everything, and I have to agree that now's the time. We've been able to afford a lot more generous programs, et cetera, because of the state we were in. But now, these past 8 years, it's been a little tight. Well, actually, it's been very tight. It's only going to get worse now this Thursday. Worse as in everything is coming to roost. But once we make those cuts, once we make the difficult decisions come this Thursday and through the next couple of months, that's going to set us on a much better course for the next few years. And we need to do that. The key, of course, is getting people back to work. It doesn't matter how much we cut or raise taxes, and I'm not advocating that, but that is all, on the side versus getting people back to work. Because once we do that, we take care of a lot of the budget problems.
Well, that's what the Federal Reserve Chair said last week. If you want to talk about any sort of turnaround in the economy, we were talking about at least 4 years before the jobs start coming back.
Right. This is a much slower recovery than we've seen in past years or in past recoveries from recessions. They've called it kind of a jobless recovery. I think we're starting to see some hiring going on. Obviously, our unemployment rate has dropped a bit, but we still have to give the confidence to businesses that we're going to do the right things with the state budget and hopefully with the federal budget, and that they can move forward making decisions on hiring.
As a freshman representative, do you sit there and wonder sort of why this didn't happen before?
I do. We're not placing the blame on anybody, but we'll get the brunt of this. But had this been done about 4 or 5 years ago, when it really needed to be done, then the times wouldn't be so tough. And I continue to try to communicate that to my constituencies and people in the Capitol. But it will be shared sacrifice. We say that a lot. However, I think that Governor Snyder, and I hope the House does as well, gets to the root of some of the fraud and abuse in some of our welfare programs. And when I hear the Department of Human Services said, well, this food stamp stuff is bogus, I was in college about, 2 years ago, and I had roommates that were abusing it. So it does happen. And it's frustrating because those resources don't get to the people who need it most. So I hope it's not just cuts, but it's really concentrating on making the system more efficient to get to those who need it the most.
That's what a business leader does, right? That's how he got elected, right?
Exactly. He's going about it as a businessman. Of course, as a business leader, he is certainly moving on a very aggressive timetable. I think one that I was reading the Free Press on Sunday, saying there were some concerns that because things aren't moving as quickly as he'd like, that maybe he's not as effective. I think it's just a question of him settling into the process, and the process does not mean that my fellow Republicans are being obstructionist with the governor. I mean, we're all on the same team. But there is certain procedures you have to follow, whether you're a Republican, a Democrat. I mean, the state constitution needs to be followed. The process needs to be followed. And so I think he's just getting used to that. But otherwise, we're going to move item pricing today in commerce. It's a little, it's about a week or two behind of what we originally wanted to do. But then again, as the chair of that committee, I made the commitment that it would be open and transparent. We've worked on the process. We've worked on the bill. Representative Lisa Lyons, who introduced it, feels it's a much better piece of legislation. So now we move it today. It's that much better rather than just running and gunning and just ramming it through.
Would you say that the governor's ahead of pace?
I rather like the pace. Not being familiar with the slow or fast, this seems to be pretty consistent. We're kind of tired at the end of the day, but that's good because there's a lot of people and faces to meet with. But I rather like the pace. The old guard might think it's a bit fast, but we've got a lot of catching up to do.
Are you the old guard yet?
No.
No. Thanks, Frank. Thanks. You've already got your committee assignments. But anyhow, I think that that you do need the time. And Speaker Bolger and the House Republicans made a commitment that we weren't just going to ram through legislation. We need to get important legislation through quickly, but we're going to make sure that it is an open and transparent process. And if that means an extra week or two to make sure a bill is done right, correctly, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to sacrifice listening to good ideas or missing something just because we're so supposedly pig-headed that we're just going to run it that way.
So when it comes to Governor Snyder's budget, the rumblings, are the Democrats lining up against it, ready to fight, or are they buying his line that seems to be sticking, that it's desperate times call for desperate measures?
I think there's going to be a little bit of teeth gnashing there. I mean, we've seen it with the earned income tax credit, and that's part of the process. Again, we're all going to have to do our dance and speak up when we need to. But at the end of the day, Governor Snyder has set some aggressive goals and some good ideas out there, and it's going to be our job to carry them out.
We'll have to vet it too. I mean, it's not just our job to
You're not a rubber stamp.
No, not a rubber stamp, but it is, he is the leader. We need to work with him, and that's why, again, we're going to follow the process, open and transparent, and make sure that these good ideas of getting the state back on track are properly vetted.
I think it was Senator Whitmer who was already talking about the earned income tax credit. If I saw, explain what that is for somebody who doesn't know.
It's that you get the money back. It's a lot of times for the people that are working. Some might say, at that minimum wage level, that they get a X amount back from their federal taxes. It is a cash payment or a check back, and that the state of Michigan follows a certain percentage of the federal guidelines. And right now we're at 20%, which is costing the state approximately $350, $360 million. And the difficulty that I had with that is that when it was at 10%, the state doing 10% of the federal, that was manageable. We could still offer a good program. This was something that President Ford and President Reagan embraced. They thought it was a good way, rewarding people. I thought it was manageable at 10%. When we went to 20, obviously it doubled, went to $360 million. And of course, it's something we're going to have to look at. It's going to be part of that shared sacrifice. But as we look at that program, and I use that as an example, that if we want to make sure that if we do make these cuts to the earned income tax credit, that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, that we put people onto other programs that might cost more. So again, I think there are savings to be had there, that it's part of the shared sacrifice, but we're going to look at it and make sure we just don't put someone on a welfare program when they're still working and doing other things.
So it's, again, more about reinventing
It's
than
creating
necessarily
value with
cutting.
your government programs, and this one hasn't created the value that we need moving forward. So not to say that we don't help those people out another way or eliminate it altogether, but that we have to find something that works a little bit better. And the same thing with the welfare fraud.
Well, good luck this week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're in town through Friday, I take it.
I'll be here, yes.
And then back at Traverse City, of course. That's State Representative Wayne Schmidt. You'll see him this weekend in Traverse City, I take it, for the Wow Fest and that sort of thing?
I'll be at the Wow Fest and a variety of places. Looking forward to it.
All right. He's the Republican from Traverse City. Frank Foster, the state representative from Pellston, will be back in the Great White North this weekend. Friday, we'll be in Marquette for the UP 200. My first dog sled race, maybe yours too. Join us then. It's 18 after the hour on Grand Traverse Tuesday, brought to you by the Traverse City Convention and Visitors Bureau. The 11th-ranked Michigan State Spartan women's basketball team remained atop the Big Ten standings. They beat Michigan 69-56 on Sunday. It's the 17th time that the women's basketball team has beaten Michigan in the last 18 games, and Coach Susie Merchant is with us this morning, the coach of the Michigan State Spartans basketball team. It's her fourth season on the Spartan sidelines, and she's got the team locked in a battle for first place in the Big Ten. Congratulations on the season so far, and Happy New Year.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, MPS. I appreciate that. It's been fun so far.
Well, don't you think you better let Michigan win once in a while, or the rivalry's just going to go kaput?
What, are you crazy or something? You're drinking too much coffee over there. Amanda put something in your coffee. No way. We want to beat those Wolverines every time we play them.
Dominant, and not only that, but the turnout at the Breslin Center on Sunday. The Detroit Free Press and Mick McCabe said that the Michigan State team, the women's players, were astounded by the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, overwhelmed, astounded. It was incredible. I knew it was going to be a special day. There's no question, and you kind of have a thought in your mind. We've put a lot of people in the stands, and we're top 10 in attendance, but in the nation. But to see that completely full with basically 15,000 people, and they're scalping tickets. I heard out front. That was kind of a special day in terms of the significance of what was going on inside Breslin, and we were happy to be part of it, and so appreciate all the fans that came out to support us. And it was a great cause too. It was our Think Pink game, which supports breast cancer awareness and honors a lot of people who lost their fight, and certainly those who are continuing their fight.
ESPN2 had coverage as well, and like you say, virtually sold out there at the Breslin Center, scalping tickets, 14,797, just 15,000 people there to see this real celebration. And you even got a shout-out from Coach Izzo at his Monday news conference, I'm told.
Yeah, I was there. I know he harasses me a lot, so I wasn't. It was kind of funny. Yep, he's just such a special guy, as you know, and just a great ambassador for Michigan State and really wants to see everybody do well. So it's always appreciated when he makes comments like that.
Is it tough for you to watch what's going on with the men's team? I would think so.
You know, I haven't coached in a long time. I mean, different places, obviously, and feel blessed to be at Michigan State now. But, you know, I think every coach, it's not as easy as it looks, I can tell you that. And every coach, you know, has gone through times where things maybe haven't meshed as well as you anticipated. And it's frustrating and it's hard, but, you know, you try to come up with different things that you can do to, you know, get your team in positions to win games. But I tell you what, I really liked their Penn State victory. Penn State's a good team and has knocked off more than just Michigan State, as you know. So, you know, I'm sorry. I think when March comes around, you know, that's when somehow the magic happens here in the Michigan State uniform for the men's team. And, you know, I really anticipate them doing extremely well in the postseason.
How about your own team and your own postseason? Is this one of the best teams or the best team you've ever coached?
You know what it is? You know, it's hard to compare because so many of the components are so different, MPS, but it's like, to me, I feel like it's the best chemistry and the best leadership I think we've had top to bottom, you know, from freshman to senior. You know, the work ethic is there, the chemistry. There's no, you know, to me, I've never had to call anyone in the office and say, you know, what's going on with you? Why are you acting this way? I don't worry about massaging egos. I mean, our best players are kids that know, you know, accept the fact that, hey, I didn't play very well today, and I'll be the first one to admit it. And you know, you don't worry about walking into that gym and figuring out, okay, how do you handle this kid today? I mean, they're just so low maintenance, and
wow.
You know, they really play for each other, to be honest with you, and it's really neat to be part of.
You know, I was going to ask you that from a leadership standpoint and a coaching standpoint. At this point of the season, do you have to have those practices still where you remind them they're mortals, or do you just keep staying positive and letting them feel like kings of the world? Or queens, I guess.
It's a combination of both, honestly. I mean, I think one thing we've done really well this year is do a lot of self-scouting where, you know, we spend a lot of time on ourselves where we need to do things better defensively and offensively. And sometimes you can get kind of caught up in the next one, and you kind of forget about yourselves and are always worried about, you know, how we're going to stop Michigan, how, you know, what are we going to do when they go to this action, and, you know, you worry about what the other guy's doing to you instead of kind of what you can do to the other guy sometimes in what you're doing with execution-wise. And I think we've done a very good job of having a good balance this year of making sure we're doing what we need to be the best we can be, but at the same time still being prepared and prepped for the next team we're going to play.
So what did your husband Gary get you for Valentine's Day?
You know what we got each other? We looked at each other and said, don't you get me anything. So we got each other the gift of not having to give anything.
Hey, time is precious. That's a good gift,
I know.
right?
You know what we did, MPS? We watched a family movie, Despicable Me, last night together with my 4-year-old and our 5-month-old and Gary and I, so it was kind of a fun little Valentine's Day.
Now, you can't tell me you stayed awake through the whole movie.
I actually did. I
You did?
enjoyed that movie, and then put them to bed, and then, of course, watched more film like I always do and went back to work. But
See
it was
that?
fun. We enjoyed our time with our kids. You know, time is precious, as you know, and it's a busy time, you know, for about 8-9 months for me. It's, you know, drinking out of a fire hose, so any little couple hours I can steal is good. In fact, I saw you had my Traverse City buddy there on prior to me coming on, and I'm actually flying up as soon as practice is over and going to watch Jasmine Hines, who's from Central Lake. She's coming to Michigan State. She's tonight going to break the all-time scoring record in the state of Michigan tonight. So I'm heading up north right after practice. So last night was special because I got a chance to spend some time with my boys.
I'm glad you mentioned Jasmine Hines because I saw the big article about her in this weekend's Free Press. And at 6'3", the most dominating player in the state, and coming to Michigan State, Jasmine Hines from Central Lake. And there's a connection because her father is actually a family friend back in the Downriver area in Michigan there. Have you met her father, and do you know his nickname?
No, I don't know the nickname, but I know he's a big guy.
His nickname, and this is the only thing, I don't even know his real name because since I was little, the only thing I've ever heard him called is the name Bulldog. That's his name.
I like that. You know, she plays like one, so there you go. She's carrying on his nickname tradition, I guess.
Well, we're looking forward to her coming to Michigan State because I think she's going to be dominant in college, too. And that's nice that you're going to make the effort to get there tonight. And maybe you'll see Bulldog and you'll give him a little shot in the ribs and call him by that name. But
I will.
That'll be perfect. Now, in terms of watching movies, like I always ask Christine at night after dinner and everything, you want to watch a movie? And she says, do you mean, do I want to watch a movie? Because you're going to fall asleep in the first 10 minutes of it, no matter what it is. So, man, that work ethic you have to watch an entire movie, then go back and watching films is very impressive, and so is the team this year. So have fun tonight, and always good to talk to you.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike. I appreciate it. Take care of yourself.
Happy Valentine's Day to you, too, to Susie Merchant, the head coach of the Michigan State women's basketball team at 32 minutes after the hour. The Pistons didn't do so well yesterday. Maybe they need Susie Merchant at the helm. They lost their third straight, 94-79 to the Atlanta Hawks. They've got the Pacers tomorrow night at the Palace of Auburn Hills. The Tigers are going to wear the number 11 on a patch all season long to honor the late Sparky Anderson. Position players are going to report Thursday, and the full spring training starts on Friday. Kansas is the new number 1 men's basketball team in the nation in college. They got 14 of 31 first place votes. That makes Ohio State number 3. They fell from number 1 after losing to Wisconsin. And don't forget the men's Spartan basketball team plays at Columbus tonight. The Wolverines are at Illinois tomorrow night. Neither one of those teams are in the top 25. But maybe they can get Ohio State on the skid. There's a lockout 3 weeks away in the NFL, and the NFL is claiming the Players Association is not negotiating in good faith. So they filed an unfair labor practice charge against the union with the National Labor Relations Board. I know all you want to know is what all I want to know, and that is there going to be NFL football with the real teams and the real players on schedule? How many games are they going to play? That's all I want to know. Please sort out the rest of it, if you will. John Harbaugh has been given a contract extension with the Baltimore Ravens through the 2014 season, and he deserves it. And Tiger Woods, fined by the European Tour for spitting on the 12th green in the Dubai Desert Classic. Who could agree with the Sky Sports commentator who said, disgusting what he's just done there? But there are some parts of him that are just arrogant and petulant. Somebody now has to come behind him and maybe putt over his spit. It doesn't get much lower than that. It's one of the ugliest things you'll ever see on a golf course. Wow, tough talk for the ugly American Tiger Woods who spat on the green in Dubai, right there on television, too. It was very unpleasant to see, if you know what I mean. 35 minutes after the hour, he's apologized for that. Heart Awareness Month, February. Well, why wouldn't it be, after all? It's the month of Valentine's Day. Andy Hetzel from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan will join us in just a minute, and we're going to talk about your heart. And do you believe you'll be better off next year than you were this year? Well, 43% of people in Michigan say their personal finances are worse, but they're optimistic. We'll talk about that, too, at 35 minutes after the hour. It's Michael Patrick Shields. 20 minutes before the hour, Michael Patrick Shields on Tuesday morning. So nice to have you with us on this Traverse City Tuesday. You can go to traversecity.com and plan your trip, just like you heard Susie Merchant is on her way to Traverse City. And you just heard that State Representative Wayne Schmidt will be up there this weekend for the Winter Wow Fest. You can get there, too, with discounted rooms and all the rest at traversecity.com. It is 20 minutes before the hour right now. George Clooney is coming to Michigan. They're going to be casting his film, and if you want to be an extra, you can do that. They're looking for apparently thousands of extras, and if you're going to do this, you got to be ready. It sounds glamorous, and you might get a glimpse of George Clooney, and you might not, but you're looking at 12 hours a day, potentially. You got to be on the set all day long, and it's going to be during the week of March 14th. And if you're interested, you can send your name, your age, your height, your weight, your phone number, and a recent picture to the website where they're doing the casting. It's IOM Extras, IOM like Mary, Extras, at gmail.com. And you got to put March Volunteer in the subject line. And RyanHillCasting.com is where you can check it out if you think you want to do this, if you want to have your moment in the sun. Now, understand that sometimes, you're going to be think you're going to be in the movie and you're not. But it might be interesting if you've got nothing else to do and you want to go hang around in Ann Arbor and look for George Clooney. You can do that. It's in Ann Arbor. And the movie, what's he making? The Ides of March, ironically, shooting in March. 41 minutes after the hour, Andy Hetzel is with us from Blue Cross Blue Shield. I suppose George Clooney would make some people's hearts go pitter-patter, pitter-patter, pitter-patter. And since it's Valentine's Day and we saw lots of hearts and talked about lots of hearts, it's Heart Awareness Month. He's with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael. Good to be with you.
I guess, the more attention you pay to your heart, the better, but we're taking a special look at it in February?
Yeah, and me in particular, Michael, I had an incident on my own the other day that raised my awareness of heart health. And I was sitting at home with my kids, and I felt that my heart was skipping a beat. And I felt my pulse, and I got concerned about it. And I didn't have any of the other warning signs of a heart attack, Michael, which are, very uncomfortable pressure in your chest or, pain in your arms or muscle weakness or shortness of breath. I didn't have any of those warning signs. So I had my wife drive me to the urgent care, and they plugged me into an EKG, and they diagnosed me with a pretty common condition, which is called a ventricular contraction, a PVC. But at least I was aware enough about the warning signs of a heart attack to know that I had a problem and go seek medical attention. And the American Heart Association and Blue Cross and Blue Shield in Michigan in February are working hard to make sure that people are aware of the warning signs of heart attack and stroke. It's one of the leading causes of death in the country, and it can be prevented if people follow a healthy diet and if they know the warning signs that are able to seek medical attention.
Well, I think it's possible that some people would be macho about it and say, I just got some bad indigestion or something like that, and you're saying it's better to be safe than sorry.
Absolutely. If you feel pressure in your chest, if you feel weakness in your muscles, if you feel pain in your arms, call 911. Do not take any chances. Make sure that you seek appropriate medical attention. Call your doctor to talk about your susceptibility to a heart attack or stroke. Get a stress test done, get a physical done. The more aware you are as a person of your risk factors and of the warning signs of a stroke or a heart attack, the better you're able to manage your condition, prevent it from happening, and then survive it once it does happen.
So I'm really startled to hear this happen to you. What is your prognosis? What happens now?
Well, like I said, they plugged me into an EKG at the St. Joseph Mercy Urgent Care in Canton. They diagnosed the PVC, which again is a pretty common condition. It's not life-threatening in anybody who's healthy. And they asked me to call my doctor, my primary care physician, for a follow-up. And I've done that. I'm going to go in for a stress test and a physical and make sure that everything is okay. And that's, again, the more people are aware of the condition and the warning signs of a heart attack or a stroke, the better they are able to save their own lives by seeking medical care at the appropriate time. And the best thing to do if you're concerned that you're having a heart attack or a stroke is to call 911 and get immediate medical attention.
Can you run down the warning signs one more time?
Sure. According to the American Heart Association, the warning signs of a stroke is numbness or weakness in the face, arm, or leg on one side of the body, trouble speaking, trouble understanding spoken words, loss of coordination. And again, according to the American Heart Association, the warning signs for a heart attack are discomfort in the center of the chest that lasts more than a few minutes, a feeling like something heavy is weighing down on your chest, muscle weakness, pain in one arm, back or neck. So if you have any of these warning signs, Michael, it's best to call 911 or seek immediate care.
Well, thanks for sharing your personal story. Glad you're okay. And the rest of us can go to bcbsm.com. They have various wellness programs that Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan offers. And 80% of all strokes can be prevented by living healthier, and they'll get you started in the right direction. Andy Hetzel, we'll talk again soon. Good health to you.
Thank you, Michael. Good to be with you.
Awareness Month in February. 14 before the hour, Michael Patrick Shields will go live to our Traverse City affiliate as soon as we get back in a flash. Well, I got to tell you, this Jasmine Hines is going to put the hurt so good on the other Big Ten opponents when she gets here to Michigan State. You heard me with Susie Merchant, the Michigan State women's basketball coach, a few minutes ago. Jasmine Hines, at 6'3", is the most dominating player in the state. She already owns the single-season scoring and rebounding records, and she's going to soon pass Stephanie Haas from Harbor Springs Harbor Light Christian's career scoring record. That could be tonight, and Susie Merchant said she's going to Traverse City to see it. And I spoke with her a few minutes ago. On the other end of my line, and by the way, is my father, Art Shields. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
I was talking to Susie Merchant, and she brought up the name of Jasmine Hines, and I said, you probably didn't know this, but Jasmine Hines is the daughter of a friend of my father's, sort of a family friend, and I asked her if she knew, if she'd met him, and she said yes, and I said, do you know his nickname? And here's what she said.
No, I don't know the nickname, but I know he's a big guy.
His nickname, and this is the only thing, I don't even know his real name, because since I was little, the only thing I've ever heard him called is the name Bulldog. That's his name.
I like that. You know, she plays like one, so there you go. She's carrying on his nickname tradition, I guess.
Yeah, and she's going to see him tonight. Maybe I told her to give him a shot in the ribs and call him Bulldog, but I don't know why he's called that. You must know. That's why I'm asking you. Why is Jasmine Hines' father called Bulldog?
You know what? I really don't know. He was actually a friend of my. He's the same age as my brother Denny, my younger brother, and everyone in our hometown had a nickname, and he just happened to be Bulldog. He was a tough-looking kid.
Did he look like a bulldog?
So I would imagine that's where it came from. Well, I don't, that's a good question.
What were some of the other nicknames in that town? River Rouge it was.
Right. Oh, God. There was Hoghead and Weasel and Con Man and
Dog Man, I remember hearing about.
On and on and on. There was no end to the nicknames.
What was yours?
I'd rather not say.
Oh, okay. See ya, Butch. All right. Catch you later. Well, Susie Merchant's going to approach Bulldog tonight and call him by his nickname. How do you think that'll go down?
Well, I imagine he'll be stunned. I don't know if he'll be flattered.
Thanks very much. That'll go on in Traverse City tonight. Susie Merchant going back. And earlier we talked, of course, to State Representative Wayne Schmidt, the Republican from Traverse City as well. Everybody's trying to get to Traverse City at this time of year, and Brad Van Domelen says, good, there's good reason to do that. The Winter Wow Fest is this weekend, and he's on the other end of our line this morning. Lucky enough to live in that beautiful part of the state. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick. How are you today?
Good. So we're going to wow everybody with the Wow Fest this weekend. Can you tell us what that means and what's accessible to everybody?
I sure can. It's the fifth year for this winter festival. It's a lot of fun, and really what we call it is a weekend celebration of winter fun. Mm-hmm. You know, Traverse City is a great place to visit year-round, and the wintertime is no exception. And this winter festival kind of just pulls together lots of fun things about winter. We have ice sculptures and snow sculptures that'll be being carved. The snow sculptures will be actually starting this week, starting carving, and they'll be finishing up on Saturday with beautiful works of art carved out of snow. Like I said, we have lots of ice sculptures in town. We have lots of events going on starting Friday night. We have a new event. It's called Winter Wine and Wow, which will be under a big tent right downtown, just right on along Grandview Parkway, right at the base of the Grand Traverse Bay. And we've got microbrews there. We have lots of the local wineries, some distilled beverages from Grand Traverse Distillery, some great music, and just lots of fun with lots of people just having a good time. So that'll start Friday night. And then Saturday, we have lots of activities going on all over in several different locations. We have some of the favorite events that we've been doing for a number of years. We have a monster dog pull, which is where people bring their dogs and pull a weighted sled, and it's a lot of fun to watch what these dogs do. We have our Super Bowl soup tasting competition going on. We'll have some other fun events like a frozen pit spit and a brain freeze ice cream eating competition. We'll also have a new event this year downtown. It's called the Downtown Throwdown Rail Jam, which is a new event this year. We'll be constructing a 30-foot high ramp with rails and jumps on it, where snowboarders and skiers will be doing competition throughout the day on Saturday. We also have a co-ed softball game going on at the Civic Center.
Okay.
So lots of activities. The Grand Traverse Resort and Spa has lots of family activities going out there with snowshoeing and dog sleds and snowmobile rides and lots of activities. And everything kind of culminates on Sunday night with a great winter fireworks display at the Grand Traverse Resort and Spa. And so it really is it's just a great weekend of lots of winter fun.
If we go to traversity.com, can we see the full schedule and the locations?
You sure can. Yep, right on the homepage there. Just look for the Winter Wow Fest logo and click on that. And there's a website that'll take you to. It has plenty of information, all the locations of all the activities going on. It's just really going to be a lot of fun all weekend.
Is that true? You can get lodging as low as $60 a night?
We have our Traverse City Escape package going on right now, which is going on through the wintertime, where rates start as low as $35 midweek and $60 on the weekend. And, there's different levels of pricing based on what hotels you want to stay at. But it's a great deal. It's a Traverse City Escape package. We have about 25 or 28, something like that, hotels participating. There's lots of different types of properties. And along with it, you get lots of special offers. You get discounts for restaurants, discounts for shopping and different recreation activities and discounts. So it's a really great value.
Just the getaway you might be looking for, the Winter Wow Fest this weekend in Traverse City. Thanks very much, Brad. Television viewers, nice having you with us. Radio listeners, stay right where you are. TraverseCity.com is where you can plan your trip. I'm Michael Patrick Shields.
A long way from